Broadcasting live from Los Angeles. This is the Tony Rodriguez Show. A very special guest tonight. Don't you go anywhere. We'll be right back.
Tomorrow all the things were gone. I'd worked for all my life, and I had to start again with just my children and my wife. Thank my lucky stars to be living here today, 'cause the flag just stands for freedom, and they can't take that away. And I'm proud to be an American, where at least I know I'm free.
And folks, here's our host, Tony Rodriguez.
Welcome to the Tony Rodriguez Show tonight. We have a special guest tonight, but first I want to introduce my panel, William Griffith and Michael Riker. We've been together for a while now, and they are the backbone to the show. Our guest is going to be Aaron Schwartzbart, but he doesn't seem to be on just yet. So we can go ahead and talk about a lot between the three of us, what's been happening today in the country, or happened yesterday, actually, in the country, besides elections.
Talk about it, Tony.
Yeah, we all saw Donald Trump come out of the closet yesterday and tell us that he's going to run for president again. What are your thoughts, Mike?
I actually enjoyed the speech because he came up with some good ideas.
It was a good speech.
It was like the Iron Dome for Israel. He wants to put something similar in effect for the U.S., which I think is a great deal.
What about you, Will?
I thought it was a different kind of speech, but Donald Trump still look. And I'm not going to mention names, but you know, people think that this is the only time that Tony and Mike and Al and so forth, Senator Gabby, this is the only time we talk. Not true. This is the time when we bring it together. But we do talk almost daily.
And we bring it to you tonight.
Yep.
And then we bring it to you. But we sort it out. Look, I have to admit, Mike is right. It was a good speech from Trump. And the message was good. But I had to laugh, Tony, because when President Trump says, okay, here's what we're not going to talk about fake news. I'm not going to mention fake news. This is what makes him so goddamn brilliant, is the fact that he said he's not going to mention it, but mention it anyway.
Well, that's like when Joe Biden said he'd unite us.
Yeah, that's right.
He hold on. Aaron just texted me. He's on the wrong link. Hold on.
Oh, he's on the Disney Channel.
Yeah.
No, I think he hit the archive link, which does not work live. I don't think.
I'm sending him the.
But that's okay. That's okay. And so as Tony's handling that, Mike, did you see the number of Republicans that were waiting to come out?
Yeah, like 20 still.
Yeah, and then there were some Republicans that said, if Trump runs, I'm not running.
Yeah.
Christy, no. You can go down through the list. But yeah, like I told you, go ahead, Tony.
No, go ahead.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
So I like Governor Youngkin. And the one thing I like about Governor Youngkin of Virginia is that Youngkin rhymes with Lincoln, if you use your imagination.
Yeah, there he is. Hey, guys, here's our guest, Aaron Schwartzbart. How are you, sir?
Incredible. How are you doing?
Sir, I'm living the dream.
Okay, good. Good.
Tony, can I interrupt one thing before you get into the interview? Can I just say one thing to
sir.
Eric? Yeah, Eric. The fact is, this is the first time we've ever done a show where everybody is bald.
Wow.
because it's BLM, Ball
Hair club
Lives.
for men or
BLM, Bud
something.
Lives Matter.
Yes,
Hey,
sir.
Aaron, I hope you're having a great evening. Tell us and our audience a little bit about yourself.
Okay. Depending on how long of a story you want, how far back you want to go, I devoted the first 30 years of my life to Satan very recklessly, and I got born again, much to everybody's surprise, about 30 years ago. I just turned 60. It's been about half my life. So first 30 years devoted to Satan recklessly. The last 30 years have been reckless for Jesus. I'm a rocket scientist by education and profession. By calling, I am an evangelist, and I came out of the womb hardwired to drive like a homicidal maniac. I was kind of living proof, I believe, or at least evidence. Evidence is subjective. Proof is, evidence is objective. Proof is subjective. The evidence that we look at together may prove something to me that does not prove to you. So evidence is objective.
Well
The
said.
evidence suggests, sorry, say again?
No, I said, well said. I was
Thank you,
applauding
yeah.
you.
Oh, thank you. Yes, yeah. So I came out of the womb, and this is as far back as I can go. And I remember pretty far back. I wasn't taught to be this way. I wasn't psychologically persuaded into it. I wasn't abused as a kid. There's no psychological or sociological explanation for the degree to which I turned into a Charles Manson or a Ted Bundy every time I got a steering wheel in my hand for the first 30 years. So I've been using my pathological tendencies with the steering wheel for good for the last 30 years after having been, I should have been dead or in prison 100 times over prior to my change. I operate Motor Gospel Ministries at neither cost to the taxpayers nor the PD, offering a very vigorous anti-street racing campaign as part of the ministry in partnership with the LAPD, local government, the news media, Hollywood, etc.
Very good.
That's
a
awesome.
great program. It's awesome. I live in the Valley, so you know that I'm very familiar with street racing. So anything that we can do or anyone can do to help today's youth get on the right path is something that we all need to do. We all need to share. The reason I want to share your story is because it's not the story that people know what you do. Just besides your motor gospel, you also have that program in your school in the afternoon. I believe it's Wednesday or Thursday nights.
Yes. Thursday nights we do after school auto shop club where we teach. We intentionally make it a little bit more of a social club and a little bit less of a classroom so that you can come with or without much of a commitment. Some people feel like the key to really cranking out the best and the brightest is requiring a lot of commitment and driving them like a drill sergeant and stuff. And that is true for some, and that works for some. But there are also others that are on various places on the autism spectrum that have IEPs that don't really know what they want to do with their lives, that are 85 years old and they're not planning on becoming race car drivers, but they want to come and hang out with some gearheads. To that end, our Thursday activity is more of a social club than a classroom. But anybody who shows up can learn as much as they possibly want to learn. There's college level physics and calculus presented. There's vocational aspects of working on race cars. There's fun aspects of working on race cars. We have a simulator that John Lee got for us. Councilmember Lee got us this amazing anti-street racing simulator. Some of the kids just want to come and race around Willow Springs or Laguna Seca on the simulator, and that's fine. Our youngest participant was 6 years old. We don't take responsibility for younger than 13 without parent or guardian, but our youngest participant in a daddy and me type of situation where his dad was supervising, 6 years old, under the race car, up on jack stands, turning wrenches, not just polishing the fenders, making meaningful contributions to our 2011 championship. One of the crew members was 6 years old that year on that team. Our oldest has been about 80. I'm not sure if we have 85, but we've had 80-year-old crew members hanging out and working on the cars.
Yeah, that's awesome. Wow.
See, that's really amazing, and it's a positive story. There's a lot of negativity out there in today's world, as we all know, and we don't hear stories like yours, right? I know your story because of where I live. Thank goodness for Facebook, because that's how we connected, because of what you do for the community. So I really am very appreciative of what you're doing for the young people, especially the young people in the Valley, because you know that there's a big struggle. There's there's a lot of minorities in the Valley, as you know. So anyone that does what you do, it's just amazing. Friday nights, I watch you every Friday night.
Yes.
Tell us what you do on Friday nights.
Right. Motor Gospel Ministries has two primary types of functions, flagrant church ministry, evangelism, Sabbath service, things like that, and non-religious benevolence in the community, where, one moment. This way, okay. One of the producers is giving me some positioning advice. Non-religious benevolence in the community. I like to call it kindness just for kindness' sake, with no religious strings attached. When Jesus had compassion on people, Jesus had compassion on people. It wasn't a ploy or a bait or a marketing technique or anything. It was pure compassion. So the non-religious benevolence side you heard a little bit about, most notably the anti-street racing campaign, which is purely anti-street racing. There's no hidden religious agenda or anything with it. Although I never hide who I am, of course. There's no gospel pushed on the kids or anybody that comes to the anti-street racing deal. The ostensibly religious stuff, I'm very unashamed as an evangelist on Friday nights to take my little place on the sidewalk at Granada Hills Grub Fest amongst the food trucks and shred on the keytar like Van Halen and Slash and Dwayne Allman and BB King and Carlos Santana and stuff. I play extremely loudly. Everybody, and I never chase anybody with the gospel. I never have a captive audience. People are very free to walk right past me and avoid me, and that's fine with me. I never push anything. But everybody that's ever come to Granada Hills Grub Fest knows the guy who shreds like Van Halen and hands out free Bibles if they should want one, if they stop at my table. And you pretty much can't avoid hearing it a long ways away. To me, if it's not loud, it's not rock and roll, and I love rock and roll.
I love
Yeah,
that.
of course you do.
I've watched you almost every Friday night do that.
Yes.
Live on Facebook. So again, it's something that I think it's missing in our country nowadays. Is, and I hate to say we should go back to the way it was, but I remember growing up as a child. You knew your neighbors. You knew the people across the street.
Yeah.
The neighbors hung out outside, sitting on their porch, looking out for each other. And we don't have that as much as we used to back then. And I kind of miss that as an adult. Like, I know my neighbor across the street, but they don't hang out outside. They're always inside, right? They're school teachers, and I know they're tired at the end of the day. I'm tired, but hang out outside with your neighbors.
Right.
And there's not an emergency going on. I know when we had fires in the valley, everybody gets together, try to help each other out, but just be outside and talk to each other and find out what concerns you have about the neighborhood. Not just your religious, but I know you're very engaged in what's happening in today's world, politic wise.
Yes.
I really want your opinion on what you think happened last night with Donald Trump.
Oh, I'm thrilled. You probably don't want to hear it, but I'm one of Trump's most ardent supporters, I think, and I can still be friends with people who do not feel similarly, so don't worry about that. But I believed I've looked at objectively at the compare and contrast of Trump and Hillary Clinton, and I'm funny this way as a very out Jesus freak and a pastor. I'm ostracized by I make enemies in both within and outside the church for my attempt at dealing objectively with facts, figures, data, and evidence. As a rocket scientist, our bread and butter, that is one that has integrity. Our bread and butter is facts, figures, data, and evidence. It's not passion. It's, will this land the shuttle more safely than that? Who has the right answer for if the person who has the right answer on which the astronauts' lives is dependent happens to be a very toxic person that I can't stand to be around, but that person has the right answer, and that's what's going to get the astronauts back alive, well, we better shut up and listen to that toxic person who's going to get the astronauts back alive. So oh, sorry, you want to interject?
No, that's a
I'm
great
sorry.
analogy.
No, I was saying that's brilliant. That is what we need.
Yes, thank you.
And as you know, I'm not a big Trump fan, but I agree with you in that aspect that you have to look at who's going to do the best job for everyone, not just a specific group, organization.
Right.
And he did do that when he was president. He did do that. Whether you liked his comments or whatever he posted, that's another story. But I don't want somebody that I like to be in charge of our republic. I want somebody who's going to do the right thing for the republic at the end of the day. I don't have to like you. We're not friends. We're not having dinner together. But I need you to do your job, and your job is to defend the republic.
Right.
Yeah.
And if my loved one is sorry, go ahead, sir.
We were yielding to you.
Yeah. If my loved one is on the operating table hemorrhaging, and there are only 2 doctors from which to choose, it's not terribly important whether either doctor would make a good pastor of my church, or whether we agree on every theological shade of gray, or lifestyle choices, or political leanings, or any of that stuff. I'm going to choose the doctor that's going to give my loved one the best chance of survival. Abstaining because I don't like either doctor is going to let the loved one hemorrhage and bleed out. That's not what you do for somebody you care about. Picking the doctor that is most closely aligned with my religious beliefs is not necessarily the right answer either, if that's not the more competent of the 2 doctors. So I believe I dealt objectively with the compare-contrast of Trump and Hillary, and I believe I dealt objectively with the compare-contrast of Trump and Biden. And the first time I voted for Trump, I didn't really vote for Trump the first time. I voted against Hillary the first time. Voting against Hillary is not the same thing as voting for Trump. I voted against Hillary.
No, I understand. And I voted in 2016. I voted for Hillary because I just didn't like the guy. I have come to respect the guy.
I had to convince
and I think he galvanizes. But I can't vote for the other side at this point either. So Tony, I'm sorry. I told you I wouldn't do that, but I did it.
No, it's fine. You know, this subject, I brought it up for a reason, because it's something that we need to start talking about it, whether we agreed that it was too soon to do it. His speech last night was brilliant. He didn't really attack people. He stayed focused on what he wants to do, what's going on in the nation right now, what he wants to do to fix it. And it makes sense because it worked the first time around, right? He did. Yeah. He pulled all the strings. You know, we can say whatever we want about, you know, electricity and how Governor Newsom wants to make everything electric. At the end of the day, we need to be a self-sufficient republic that can take care of its people. And that's absolutely great. When I say take care of, I don't mean give them free stuff. I mean take care of them.
Right.
Yeah.
You know,
give them opportunities to earn their keep and invest it according to their free will, eh?
Right.
Right.
And I think that's
well. See, but that's part of the problem. To our guest and to our host, that's part of the problem. Is that people aren't giving that exercise. They're not allowed to do that. Look, I don't know how you feel about it. To our guest and to our host and our panel member too. I don't know how you feel about it, but COVID was an absolute ruse when it came to the economy.
Well, yeah, I mean, you know how I feel about it. It was
and they told people here in Los Angeles, oh, don't worry about paying your utilities. Don't worry about paying your rent. Look, we didn't have a lot to work with, but we did it during COVID, and I still got COVID twice, or a really bad flu. But the point I'm trying to make is now, after COVID has waned, now they're taking away the homes. They're throwing people out of their domiciles, and this is political. This is political if I've ever seen it.
Well,
you can agree to disagree.
Everything is political. Everything's politicized now. It's not about the people. It's about convenience, right? So now that COVID is gone, now they don't mind. Elections are over, right? Let's throw the people out. Let's not help them anymore. That's the mentality as far as I see. Look, I'm very engaged in my neighborhood, Sunland Tahunga. You know, we have this council person in charge who's worthless, right? Who's worthless. She's part of the Garcetti Mafia. She gets support from Chairman Biden. So I'm not a big fan of hers. She's dealt a blow to the LAPD, as you know, Aaron, right?
Yes.
She wants to defund them. We have some problems now with with Captain John Smith being removed from the Foothill Division, Slow Contreras being transferred out because they're not part of the chief's plan on how he wants to operate. So I'm not a fan of the chief. Definitely not a fan of Monica, as you know, Aaron. I never
Right.
have been.
She's earned that.
And we need to do something. Yeah, she definitely
Right?
has. We definitely need to do something. And when I talk to you, it really enlightens me and gives me more motivation to keep doing what I'm doing, because I'm 61 years old. I'm an old dude, but I still have a little fight in me left, and I don't
Yep.
want to leave a world for the youth or my grandkids to people like Monica and Chief Moore and
Right.
Chairman Biden,
Yep.
and his crew,
Right.
because they're liars. They don't really care about the republic and its people. Talking about local politics, right, especially LAPD.
Yeah.
In my opinion, we need to redo the city charter for LA. The city council should have no say-so on who our chief of police is. Right?
Okay.
Because what happens is when they become a chief, they feel obligated to answer to city council and not the people in the streets that are getting,
Right.
The crime rate is ridiculous in the valley, right? I don't feel safe. I don't want my wife walking at night in Tujunga anymore. I just don't
Right.
like that. It's not a safe
Right.
place.
Right.
Right.
I'm
That's right.
a little bit harsher than you. You're a lot nicer about it than I could probably be. Right now, there's every Saturday, just so that you know, there's a group of people going to hang out in Pacoima in support of the captain that was relieved of duty.
Good.
For not following the chief's advice, for being a whistleblower. What are your thoughts on that, on Captain Johnny Smith?
Sure. I have heard various allegations, and I don't know the facts as well as I would if I saw firsthand whatever happened. So I mean, first and foremost, I wasn't there, so I don't know for sure what happened. Beyond that, the allegations that I've heard are completely consistent with Monica's enmity with the LAPD. In her own words, she said in, I can't remember if it was March of 2020 or June of 2020, it was approximately June of 2020. She said, we must let, over the martyrdom of the Saint Floyd, what's his first name? George Floyd?
Yeah, George Floyd.
Yeah,
George Floyd,
she put out an official post with an LA City seal on it, et cetera, in her capacity as council member, not as a private party. In her capacity as an elected official, she put out an official post in very bold print. It's still on Facebook today. You can find it and see it, or I can send it to you. Loosely paraphrased, this murder is wrong. This is against everything that should represent what it means to wear a badge. We must let our anger fuel our fight. She used the words anger and fight in an implicit context of directing that anger and that fight against everybody who wears a badge, as though it's actually true that the majority of the cops are institutionalized racists. That racism is institutionalized, and the majority of cops are anti-black racists, which is greatly exaggerated according to any objective data you can find. But she, in very big letters, she put, we must let our anger about this horrible murder of George Floyd fuel our fight for this, that, and the other against the cops. In the following months, something like 60 LAPD vehicles were vandalized. LAPD officers were attacked, brutally attacked without provocation, and injured, and some of them were hospitalized. $2 billion in damage were done nationwide. And that, I'm not saying Monica caused all that with her written words, with her government seal and stuff on it. But if somebody is the chair of public safety, and hypothetically these cops are trying to keep us safe from people committing random, unprovoked acts of arson, theft, and even murder against random innocent bystanders in the name of George Floyd, that's conduct on becoming a public safety chair, to say the least. And arguably, she even has some of that innocent blood on her hands.
She needs
So,
to go to
Absolutely.
and I agree with you because chair of public safety, that's a position that you need to take and run with it and take care of the public. And she hasn't. I mean, she totally neglects. I'll give you a simple example. I live on off where there's a middle school called Mount Gleason Middle School. I don't know if you know where that's at. They didn't have lights for 6 months right in front of the school. Now,
Wow.
per state law, all schools are required to have lights outside of the schools on all night.
Oh, I didn't know.
The lights weren't working for 6 months, and I would email, call 311, nothing done for them for 6 months. It took 6 months to fix the light, and her reasoning to me was through Instagram because she wouldn't take my calls. Well, you know, there's a lot of people stealing copper wire. Well, okay, I understand that, and I get that there's a lot of people stealing copper wire, but I'm sure we have enough copper wire in stock that we can fix the lights in front of a school.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And then
Nelson.
she connected me with one of her minions who never returned my emails or my calls. But right before the election, all the lights were fixed.
Right.
And I know it's not such a big story like with LAPD, but it just shows you her character. Here we are dealing with kids. Lights are required in front of a school, and yet it's not a big deal to her. Her answer to me was, there's people stealing copper wire. Well, people are stealing everything. I mean, I can't help that. I need you to fix the freaking lights.
Yep.
And then when she fixed them, which was like a week before the election, she sent me an email. Oh, the lights are fixed now. I said, well, yeah, I see them every night when I drive by there. I know they're fixed. So it's little things like that that tell me a lot about a person's character. If you can't take care of the little stuff, there's no way you're going to be able to take care of the big stuff. I just don't see that happening.
Well, and
I sort of disagree with you on one level, Tony, because I'm dealing with big stuff, but you help me take care of little stuff. It helps me get through the big stuff. So it depends on what the relationship is and how that works.
Well, that's true also. I'll take that.
Yeah,
ahead,
but I want to ask Aaron, how would you help? What would you do to fix this thing that we're going through?
Oh man, you're making me very sad right now. You know how to make a grown man cry.
I didn't mean to do that. I want you to be happy.
Thank you. People beg me to run against Monica, and I am so not a politician, even though I'm very well qualified in many regards. And I didn't do it, believing there would be 15 much more qualified people than I that were much more interested in being city council members than I. I don't want to be a city council member. I don't want the job. But I did not run against her.
You're a smart man.
Right. So I didn't run against her thinking to be 15 well-qualified candidates. And there ended up being one candidate who wasn't terribly up to the vigor of being able to defeat a Monica Rodriguez. And I can't say I have regrets because I'm extremely busy with the ministry. I'm not at all convinced that God wants me to run for office versus being a little bit more like there's a concept in the Old Testament of the prophet and a concept of the king. And the prophet spoke for God, might have even been more articulate than the king or more creative or more insightful or something like that. But the prophet was not the king. They're two different offices and they're different sets of qualifications. And I feel more like God is calling me to be a prophet to help other people, such as Tony, to get elected than to run myself. And
Tony, can I interject just for a minute? Because I just got 2 emails, and I don't know who's listening or where they're listening from, but they actually asked the question. He sounds just like Mike Gabbard, voice-wise.
Yeah, actually,
yeah.
He sounds just like him. I swear to God, this person says, I swear to God, it's another Gabbard. We just don't know it yet.
And that's a compliment.
And that is a compliment, Aaron.
Oh, thank you, sir. Thank you.
Hey, Aaron.
You sound just like him. Inflection and everything.
You and I had this conversation at the restaurant, if you recall.
Yes, sir.
we had this conversation when I was contemplating to run against Emrod, as we call her in the Valley. So what we need to do, I think, is just, and I agree with you, the person that ran against her had no shot. I mean, she just couldn't articulate what she needed to articulate to the voters. Nice lady, nice person. But to fight Monica, you got to kind of be a little like Trump, push back.
Right.
Because we know Monica is well connected with some people in Tahunga that are very powerful. I won't mention any names, but we know she is, and they helped Monica win our neighborhood because of the connection. So, but
now I do have more of an answer than I was only partway into the answer, but don't let me interrupt you. Sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead. I want to hear your answer.
Yeah, because there is more that we can do. I believe there's more that we can do. So the first thing was you made a grown man cry because I didn't run against Monica, and maybe I should have. I don't know. I still don't think I should have, but I don't know. But beyond that, the scientists that questioned cold fusion when cold fusion looked miraculously promising but dubious, according to 400 years or so worth of our strongly held opinions that compare favorably with a lot of factual evidence in the community of physics. When scientists questioned cold fusion, they weren't called cold fusion deniers; they were called scientists. It was completely appropriate and dispassionate that they would look at these dubious results that seem too good to be true and say, wow, well, we're cautiously open to this, but that seems to violate the laws of physics. What's going on here? And they dug in, and they didn't find anything wrong. They couldn't find anything that showed what happened or whatever. But they didn't give up because they couldn't find any evidence, any smoking gun. There's a difference between, again, evidence is objective, proof is subjective. What the evidence that proves to me that there's popcorn in the bag, when I hear the popping and I smell the butter and I see the bag with the word popcorn written on it, maybe that proves to you there's popcorn in the bag. Maybe you're an agnostic and you say, no, until I open the bag, I'm not going to believe what's in that bag. And that would be a scientifically tenable position to take. That would be a fair place to be if you haven't opened the bag. Now, the popcorn atheist who says there's no way there could be popcorn in that bag, despite hearing the popping, smelling the butter, and seeing the bags, that person his or her position is considerably weaker scientifically. The scientists that question cold fusion did not find a smoking gun initially that proved that cold fusion was wrong, and that the absence of a smoking gun that quote unquote proved it, again, proof is subjective, that absence of a smoking gun didn't change the degree to which the cold fusion claims were extremely dubious. It didn't make them all of a sudden make sense. So one of the things I think we have to do, and every one of us can afford to do this, it costs you nothing. If you can simply turn the conversation around a little bit, every time a lie is told, tell the truth to the extent that you have time for it. You don't want to get in childish sophomore, teenage arguments, but to the extent that you can, every time, when the evening news told me that Joe Biden was more popular than Barack Obama, and I know that there were Black people and Latinos were leaving the Democrat Party in droves to support Donald Trump, because Donald Trump empowered them with jobs. He didn't enslave them with freebies. He empowered them with jobs. And there were very noteworthy people of every color broadcasting, Donald Trump is great for employment. He's given us, a hand up, not a handout. We like what this guy is doing, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. How can Black and brown people leave the Democrat Party in droves to support Trump, and Biden is more popular than Barack Obama? When the evening news tells me something like that, I'm skeptical of that. Just as scientists, honest, dispassionate scientists, were skeptical of cold fusion. When the evening news, if the evening news told you that in 1968, Buddy Rich was a more popular drummer than Ringo Starr, and Buddy Rich couldn't pack a supper club with 80 people, but Ringo Starr was filling stadiums with 100,000 screaming fans, you know something's wrong there. It simply fails the sanity check for for somebody to assert that cold fusion worked, which it ultimately didn't. The scientists dug enough and they disproved it. They did find an error in the experiment that led to the dubious claims. You don't need to find a smoking gun if the evening news tells you that the curling broadcast in the Olympics at 3 in the morning on a Thursday night was watched by more people than the figure skating gold medal finals on Saturday night at prime time. You know that's wrong. It's so dubious, you don't need a smoking gun. So whenever people try and intimidate, bully us into not investigating, the con man doesn't want you investigating. The con man hopes with enough time you'll just forget about the fact that you got conned and you'll just let it go. What did Hillary say? What could it matter about Benghazi? What could it matter? You know, it's water under the bridge.
No, she
Right,
did,
right?
Aaron. She did say that. She did say that. But also, in defense of that statement, we did nothing about it. Or if we did, it was behind the scenes. Because the American people got no closure on Benghazi to this day, really.
Right. Thank you. Right. And so that's kind of my point is when people try and bully you into, you know, saying you're an election denier, if you believe that the White House was stolen and Trump is still president, or you believe that Newsom lost the recall election and it was fraudulent to say that he actually overcame the recall vote or whatever, any of these things that are highly dubious, you know, that are up there with curling has more people watching it at 3 a.m. on a Thursday morning than figure skating at prime time on a Saturday night. Any of these things that are that dubious.
Sure.
Huh?
No, I said you're absolutely correct.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Any of those.
But just mute me if I. but I'm excited tonight.
Oh, good. I'm glad. Me too. Thank you. I'm having fun. Any of those attempts by the bullies and the deceivers to get you to not investigate these dubious results. You know, the people that had cold fusion, I think were innocently mistaken. I don't think that was a con job to the best of my recollection. But in many of these situations, there's a deliberate con going on. And the last thing they want is you to investigate. So they will do whatever they can to bully you. They'll call you an insurrectionist. They'll call you a this, that, or the other, a denier. You are within your rights. Every one of us, it costs us nothing. Every one of us is within our First Amendment rights to investigate. We can investigate, a homeless person can investigate to the extent that he or she can get on a computer at the library for free or something like that. Jeff Bezos could fund, he could pay $40 million in legal fees to have professionals investigate something. You know, Mike Lindell may have, I don't know. I would like to see us, and I'm my chest is on fire. I have a burning in my bosom.
Real quick.
Yes, sir.
I'm interrupting you, and don't lose your train of thought. But basically, what you're saying is this is personal responsibility.
Yes.
We all have the ability, as long as we're living and breathing, we all have the ability to find out for ourselves, right?
Yes.
Honestly, right. I agree.
And part of that may mean being skeptical of things that the evening news is spreading as though they were facts. You know, spreading allegations as though they were facts. As scientists, good scientists, that is, scientists of integrity, we look at facts and we form opinions based on those facts, and we revise those opinions as we get more facts and stuff like that. That's part of the scientific process. What we don't do is build dogmatic opinions on allegations. And we especially don't do it on dubious, highly questionable allegations. A whole bunch of things: man-made global warming, critical race theory, bulls getting pregnant, Joe Biden winning the 2020 election, Gavin Newsom overcoming the recall bid. You know, a whole bunch of things are theories that are not facts, and those theories aren't based on facts either. Those theories are based on dubious allegations. And if we could just turn the conversation around, or just not be intimidated, just ignore the deceivers, and go about our business exercising our First Amendment right to investigate these dubious results. And to me, it doesn't even matter if it's 2 years old. Impersonating a president for 2 years, there is no statute of limitations that says he just gets to stay in because it's been a while.
Aaron, let me ask you this. Okay, first of all, for some young people that are listening in, how do you build a rocket?
You take a
let's get
you
away
take a
from
really
let's get away
yeah.
from politics because our
Okay.
kids are tired of politics right now.
Okay,
They
great.
want to know how to build a rocket.
You take a really big funnel, you turn it upside down, you pour
We
gasoline in
used to
there.
do it. Yeah,
Huh?
we used to do it with toilet paper tubes as kids,
Okay.
and you get that engine, yeah, and it wasn't. But the funny thing is, Mike and I and Tony is our host. We often make a joke when it comes to political issues. It doesn't take a rocket scientist to figure this out, but
Right.
tonight it does.
Sometimes it is rocket science. Yep.
Yeah,
Hey,
So
Aaron,
yeah, really,
hey, Aaron,
really. Oh, go
I
ahead.
want to,
sir.
I want to ask you something about a more important topic tonight.
Yes. Yes.
Your spouse Terry.
Yes. Tropical roots. Thank you.
Yes, let's talk about that.
Okay. This Saturday, November 19th, in the Black Room at White's Gallery in Montrose, one of America's best loved little tourist towns, is the opening reception for my wife's beautiful art exhibit, Tropical Roots. She's a Salvadoran American fine artist, and she's doing some really groundbreaking stuff inspired by the fruits that she grew up with in El Salvador as a little girl: nísperos, zapotes, anonas, mamey, mangosteen, things that most gringos have never heard of. And she's made this really gorgeous. It's her most ambitious art project ever. In having painted and exhibited and owned an art gallery and stuff like that. This has been 2 years in the making, and there's a mystery fruit that won't be unveiled until Saturday night. So I hope you'll come and see it. Moreover, given that it's all about fruits, exotic fruits, the town of Montrose is partnering with her in celebration of her exhibit, which is called Tropical Roots, for Tropical Roots Month, where a number of the restaurants will be featuring special creations on the menu and special cocktails from their rock star chefs and rock star mixologists featuring the fruits from today's Tropical Roots exhibit.
It's a good idea.
And a portion of the
Like I
proceeds
told
from
you,
if you buy
awesome.
any. Sorry, go ahead, sir. Sorry.
No, I will be there for sure with my wife this Saturday.
Good.
I'm especially interested in the fruit mamey because I used to eat that as a kid.
Okay.
Growing up in Puerto Rico, so that's a great fruit. Hard to come by in this country, though, for sure.
Yeah.
But tell me, because I'm really interested. You post a lot of stuff about you and your wife.
Yeah.
How long you guys been married? How do you make it work? She's from El Salvador. You're a gringo. How does that work?
Oh man, what a mouthful you asked. All right. You don't know what a can of worms you just opened, but it's a good one. Maybe you'll have to have me back on because we only have 20 minutes left or something like that. But,
You can go more than that, can't you, Tony?
He can come back another night. I'm just like you. Like I married a gringa, right?
Yeah.
She married. So how long have you been married? How does it work?
Right. Sure, right. So the short version of the story, married 26 years. We've been together about 30 years. We had kind of a long courtship. Here's my executive summary on this, and then we could spend 8 hours on the details when you have time. But executive summary, some people have told you that love is the foundation for a solid marriage. They are mistaken. There are days when you don't feel. There are days when you don't feel the love. If a felt love, this is as opposed to like agape love, which is like a selfless love. If a felt love, as most people know it, like eros, or a good feeling, a warm feeling, an attraction, an enjoyment of being around that person, if that is the foundation for your marriage is going to be at risk, because the first day you wake up and you ain't feeling it, then what is your marriage founded on? Maybe you're going to lose your marriage. Some people tell you that communication is the foundation of a solid marriage. They too are mistaken. There are days when you wake up and you don't feel like talking. You don't want to hear that person's voice. You're irritated or mad at each other or something like that. And the sound of that person's voice might be cathartic for that person to speak up, but for you, it's like fingernails on a blackboard, and it winds up this terrible tornado of catharsis and anger and reverse catharsis and more anger. And if communication is the foundation for your marriage, the first day you wake up and you really don't want to hear each other's voice, your marriage will be at risk. Some people tell you that respect is the foundation for a solid marriage. That's not true either. There are days that we fail to earn our spouse's respect, and there might be days that our spouse fails to earn our respect. The thing that makes our marriage work for 26 years, on days when we're feeling love or we're not, on the days when we don't want to hear each other's voices or we're delighted with each other's voices, on the days when I'm hitting a home run and she's really feeling the respect, or she's doing this wonderful art project and I'm so filled with respect seeing her be industrious and focused on something positive for 2 years. It's not a little whim. It's she's been really out there, you know. On days when the love and the communication, the respect are there, on days when the love and the communication and respect aren't there, we always have commitment. We made a promise to Jesus to stay stuck with each other, to climb inside a cell. And you've heard of soulmates. We call it cellmates. Climb inside a cell. Those bars clank behind you. The key gets thrown away. And it's so simple. It's so not rocket science. And yet it seems very hard for people, right? You stay together. And interestingly, right, when your marriage is founded on commitment, you can weather any storm. Your marriage is founded on commitment. You're committed to each other when you feel like hearing that person's voice. When you don't, you're committed to each other when you don't even like that person. You're committed to each other when you fail to earn that person's respect, and vice versa. Our marriage is simply founded on commitment. It's the simplest thing in the world. And an interesting byproduct of that, this is why I was saying it's a long story, which I wasn't going to make long. Interesting byproduct. Yeah, we didn't marry because she was what I was looking for and because I was what she was looking for. I limped into the physical therapist's office where she worked as a physical therapist assistant, having crashed in NASCAR, having lain in a gurney in the hospital that night, thanking God for the great thing that he was going to bring me as a result of the crash. And she had no interest in racing. She never wanted to be a pastor's wife. We have so many irreconcilable differences. It's just absolutely funny. And an interesting
thing grounds for divorce.
That's precisely the point. If you believe that your word counts for something, and if you said I do till death do us part, there are no grounds for divorce. Certainly not irreconcilable differences. I could imagine an extreme scenario where an abusive spouse, and that could be a man or a woman, it could go both ways, an abusive spouse needs a restraining order or even needs to be incarcerated, but even that is not necessarily grounds for divorce. If you really gave your word, and if you're a man or a woman of your word, we gave our word and we meant it. And it's really it's as simple or as difficult as that. The fun thing I was going to tell you is, ironically, 26 years of remain committed to each other despite mountainous irreconcilable differences. In an arranged marriage, we believed that God put us together, even though neither of us was what each other were looking for. 26 years of maintaining commitment in spite of a mountain of irreconcilable differences. We fell in love with each other about a year ago or something like that. And we're like two teenagers in love now. We're frolicking like little kids in love.
Oh, I've seen that.
Tony, we're go ahead. I'm sorry.
I never thought about it the way you've explained it. I've been married for 42 years to my high school sweetheart, and we eloped. We were young kids. We were both 19. I joined the Army and took her to Europe with me alone.
I know, right?
So we kind of grew up together. We dealt with a lot of things. You know, I was in the Army.
Wait, how old were you? How
61.
old?
61.
No, then when you took her to Europe.
19.
Wow.
19.
Wow.
19.
Yeah, a boy.
And we were both kids. We knew we loved each other in high school. We took a chance. I said, look, I'm leaving. I'm afraid that if we don't make a decision now, when I come back, you won't be around. And we got married. Not the smartest thing at the time because, you know, we were broke, two young broke kids, but we survived. And to this day, you know, we're just as in love as probably more than we were then. And like you, we're like little kids, you know, touchy-feely all the time, hanging out. So it works. And believe me, we have many differences, many reasons why we shouldn't be together through our career, through my careers. But she's still there right next to me every day. And I wouldn't trade that for anything in the world.
Mike Riker would agree with that. He's a guy. Look, the thing is, because I know we're approaching the top of the hour. We got about 10 minutes left.
10 minutes, yeah.
So in 30 to 60 seconds, I want to say, Aaron, you're absolutely right on. I want to ask you your opinion of it, because you were talking about your faith,
Yeah.
which I can already tell is strong.
Yeah.
And is, but what about those people who feel disenfranchised? I mean, we have a lot of people that here in Los Angeles, especially, you have a lot of people that walk through a church and not dressed right, or they're homeless, they're asking for food. Uh, if we're going to be compassionate, we have to do it across the board, right? Though
Yes, sir.
it's not about politics; it's about living what we say we're living, right?
I let one of my homeless friends take one of my race cars to a homeless encampment where he said it would inspire him. It would inspire him to get this race car working again. It was about 90% ready to go. We had sunk a boatload of money into it. I trusted him with a race car, with a decent race car, not junk, NASCAR stock car. He took it to a homeless encampment and it burned to the ground mysteriously. And I still love him. I'm very disappointed that happened, but yeah, no, we.
So let me ask you this. Let me ask you this. No, I understand, and as we know in life, stuff happens.
Yeah.
And that kind of stuff happens. But let me ask you this: how do you feel? I know you're a Christian conservative. But what do you?
No, that's two. That was two adjectives. I'm a Christian. An honest read of the Bible doesn't necessarily reveal a bent toward political conservatism or political liberalism.
No, it does not. You're absolutely
right.
You are absolutely 100% correct.
Yeah.
Because, but the point is, how would you reach out to other faiths that they're on the same path, but they don't quite know. They don't quite know where they belong, because we have a lot of lost people. Yeah, go ahead. No, you go ahead.
Yeah. Oh, okay. Well, according to the Bible, they're not necessarily on the same path. The Bible makes some very offensive, exclusive claims about there being only one true God, and those claims are incompatible with other faiths that would say there are 1,000 true gods, or that would say there's one true God, but it's a different God than the God that's revealed in the Bible and stuff. The Bible doesn't make room for other true gods. So in my attempt to love people of other faiths with sincerity, the God of the Bible is a God of sincerity.
So you think, Eric, the Bible is the be all end all of everybody's faith then?
No, the Bible asserts that there are many false faiths worshiping many false gods.
Well,
so I guess, Aaron.
But I didn't finish the answer to my question. But go ahead, Tony.
That's what I mean. Go ahead. Finish.
Yeah. So how I interact with people of other faiths, which I do almost every Friday night when I'm on the sidewalk, and almost every Saturday morning at our Sabbath service, because people tune in to my broadcast that are not necessarily my faith. I tell them I recognize there may be Sikhs and Zoroastrians and Jews and Muslims and Buddhists and Hindus and atheists and Wiccans and Druze and Shintos and Hare Krishnas and possibly others that I've never even heard of. And you may not be my brother in Christ, but you can be my honored guest. We welcome honored guests with open arms. And, as long as you're not coming to deceive, distract, do harm or whatever, you'll always be welcome with open arms as my honored guest. You may not be my brother in Christ, but you can be my honored guest. And I don't want you to feel any pressure to participate in my Christian stuff if you're visiting us from another faith, or if you're just checking us out. And if you have any questions about our faith, no question is off limits. That's the speech I give virtually every time the camera's rolling.
And I admire that of you, because I've watched you the last couple of years, and I think sometimes people get carried away with trying to influence their religious beliefs and make it a political issue. And you don't do that, right? I admire that about you, that you're more focused on people, on real people, not the people that are making all this money off our backs, that are not elected offices, right? And that, to me, that you can spread the message regardless of whatever religion they belong to, because it's an honest message. It's not either my way or the highway. This is my way. You don't have to like it, but you can also be part of really the solution, which is what I'm more concerned with, is how we're going to get people together. Like I talked when I first started about neighbors, right? Back in the day, my grandparents would sit outside, talk to the neighbors. The neighbors knew who I was. I knew who they were. If they had a problem, we came to help. And people don't want to do that anymore. They don't want to help each other for whatever reason, whether it's political reasons or religion. Whatever reason they come up with. Lately, it's been politics, right? You're a Trumpster, so I don't like you. You're a Newsom. I don't like you because you're a Newsom, and I don't like Newsom. And that's what politicians have done a great job of doing since Biden's been in office, right? They've been able to divide the nation, not just divide the nation, but families, friends, co-workers. I have army buddies that I didn't know were that way until Biden became president, and all of a sudden they won't speak to me anymore because I'm not a Chairman Biden supporter, right?
Yeah.
So it's disheartening to see people like that, but it's a breath of fresh air to have people like you doing what you do, right? Because I love the crap out of what you do.
Thanks.
I think it's great. I follow you on Facebook. I make sure that I pay attention to what you're doing. And as you know, your opinion matters to me.
Thank you.
I did.
And vice versa.
When we met at that restaurant, I wanted to meet you, and I told you that I wanted to talk to you, pick your brain to see what you thought. And really not what you think anymore. It's what you feel in your heart. And that's pretty amazing to me that we don't have enough people like you out there. We need to replicate people like you. And I'll use this word, and I apologize now.
Be careful, Aaron. Be careful, Aaron. He might be the scientist that wants to clone you.
That's a scary thought.
Oh no, it's not scary at all.
Oh, I think it's awesome.
But I really believe that, and I admire what you do for the Valley, specifically for the Valley, and I admire that you're a supporter of law enforcement, because I think without them, we'd be in deep trouble. Mike here's a former Capitol Police officer.
Oh wow!
He is my friend, not just because of that, because he cares about what's going on in today's world.
Yeah,
we might not agree on everything, but you know what? That's okay, right? It's about doing the right thing for the Republic and its people, right? And I'm a big fan.
Sorry.
I'm looking forward to meeting your wife Saturday.
Yes.
I definitely want to meet her and have my wife meet you and her.
Good.
So we can develop a better relationship moving forward, because I think you and I have a lot of work to do ahead of us. I
agree.
Hey, Aaron, I want to ask you one question, because we're approaching the top of the hour.
Yes, sir.
Mike Riker, who has he served 24 years in law enforcement, and he served in Maryland and Washington D.C. But it's not much different than what we're dealing with here. Okay. It seems like law enforcement doesn't get the backing that they need when they need it the most.
Most of us have to remain neutral while we're on the job. And people usually ask me,
well,
when you retired, what did you get? I said, freedom of speech.
Right.
Because you had to maintain that line you had to walk.
Right. And that to some extent plays into my feeling. That's not the only little element to it, but that's part of the reason that I don't want to become an elected official. And I think God's calling me to be more like a prophet. I can't be fired. I work for free. Nobody pays me. I'm not under contract. I can say anything I want to. People with badges and guns, I'm trying to protect them. I'm trying to use my free speech to protect them. They use a badge and a gun to protect a coward like me. I would scream like a woman and run the other way if I were in a.
You are not Aaron. Aaron, yeah. you are not a coward. You are strong in your faith and so forth. But I'm going to ask you to do, because we literally have less than 1 minute till the top of the hour.
That's okay, Aaron. What would you say? What would you say to gay and lesbians? Hey, wait. Will, do you have an announcement to make, Aaron?
Oh, well, sort of. Yeah, we talked about this slightly sensitive. Yeah, my next book comes out Black Friday, and I hadn't decided whether I was going to debut the cover or anything. I'm trying to keep it under wraps till Black Friday, but I'll say it, I guess, here. The Street Racing 101: Why Motorsports Belongs at the Track by 5-time champion Aaron Schwartzbart. It's a little stocking stuffer, very easy read, aimed at junior high to high school reading level. And if you can't get your kids to read it or your grandkids to read it, I suggest you still buy it. You read it. It will give you talking points. Coming from a 5-time racing champion, very unquestionable, unassailable reasons why racing should be at the track and not in the street. It'll give you talking points to put in your own words and have that conversation with your loved one. You might save their life or somebody else's life.
Well, thank you, Aaron, for being with us tonight. I'll meet you on Saturday. Looking forward to Saturday. Okay, sir? Thank you for tuning into the Tony Rodriguez Show, and see you next Wednesday night. Good night, everybody.
And thank you, Aaron, Mike Riker, and Tony Rodriguez.